Hello. Words you need. Advanced. Lesson 12, words 551 to 600. Now, the words in this lesson really are quite advanced. I like to think that I have an advanced level of Russian. But there are lots of words in this lesson which I don't know in Russian. So please forgive me if I pronounce them incorrectly. I'm sure I will put the stress in the wrong place on a few of these words, but never mind. I hope you find the lesson interesting and you learn something new. Let's go! Поправки к Конституции были одобрены на референдуме. The amendments to the Constitution were approved in the referendum. Поправки, the amendments. So, поправить какой-то документ, you can amend it. Let's look at some collocates of amend. We'll do it like that. So we get different types. 4 words before, 4 words after. What do we get? We get, they amended the Constitution. They amended the law. They amended the bill. That's because in America, законопроект is a bill. So when it's going through Congress and through the Senate, they call it a bill. And the bill has to be amended sometimes. So you can amend laws, the Constitution, bills, etc. In Britain, it would be legislation. The legislation was amended in the House of Lords. That would be the British way to talk about it. But the bill was amended in Congress would be the American way. All right, the next one. Мы организовали соревнования по стрельбе из лука. Стрельба из лука is archery. Соревнования. We organised an archery contest. Of course, it could be an archery competition. And the word competition is used more often than the word contest. But basically they're synonyms. A competition, a contest. I feel like a contest, it's more often between two people than, or when they're not directly competing, like somebody comes and tries, then somebody else comes and tries, then somebody else comes and tries. That feels more like a contest. But the meanings are very similar. There's also a word contention. 3 команды по-прежнему борются за титул. 3 teams are still in contention for the title. There's also a verb to contend. 3 teams are contending for the title. So they are contending, they're in contention. It's a contest. The next one. Мы делаем все, чтобы обеспечить безопасность лошадей. We do everything to ensure the horse's safety. Let's add an apostrophe. Ensure. Обеспечить что-то. What else can be ensured? Remember, this is ensure. This is not insure. So insure is about insurance, страховка, страховать. But this is ensure. The pronunciation is the same. But it should be clear from the context if you're talking about страховка or обеспечение. So if we put in here ensure and see what we get. It seems to be struggling with this one. There we go. Safety is the first one. Ensure safety, ensure the student's safety, ensure people's safety, ensure security, ensure quality. This ensure, it's like make sure. We want to make sure that the horses are safe. We want to ensure their safety. We want to make sure that the building is secure. We want to ensure the building's security. So this word ensure, it's closely related to make sure. We want to make sure that people comply with the laws and requirements. We want to ensure that people comply with the laws and requirements. And remember, pronunciation, to winsure with a w. To ensure. All right, the next one. Вулкан извергался в прошлом году. That's one of the Russian words that I don't know. I would have said вулкан взорвался, I guess. Извергался. The volcano erupted last year. It erupted. Do a nice long imagine the lava coming out. Erupted. There was an eruption last year. Not into there, eruption. Yes. Let's see what you can get an eruption of. Eruption of. And then nouns. Let's have a look. The eruption of Mount Etna, for example. Yeah, the mountain. The eruption of Vesuvius. But you can also say there was an eruption of violence. Like вспышка. Не война, but fighting, you could say. An eruption of violence. An eruption of rage. About гнев. An eruption of anger. Or a happy one, an eruption of laughter. Ha 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 ha. Eruption. All right, the next one. Завтра у меня выступление. You know the word performance. What about this word? I've got a gig tomorrow. So very often musicians, bands, they call their performances gigs. It's usually paid as well if it's a gig. We've got a gig tomorrow. And interestingly, this word is used for выступление, but there's also this thing called the gig economy. And Uber, for example, is in the gig economy. A lot of delivery services are also part of the gig economy, where you're not directly employed by the company who you work for. Honestly, I don't know why it's called the gig economy and how it's connected to musicians doing gigs, but I guess it's something to do with the unstable nature of the work. A gig is like a single paid job. Maybe that's it. So when you work for Uber, you get lots of individual single paid jobs. They're your gigs. Or the same with delivery. You get paid for each job you do. So each one is like your gig. And a musician does one concert. That's a gig. I think that might be it. Next, pronunciation. Gig. Open your mouth. Gig. 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 Okay, the next one. Водород. Легко воспламеняется. Hydrogen is highly flammable. The word here could be flammable. That would be an advanced word. Воспламеняется. Flammable. But actually the word from the chorus is hydrogen. Open your mouth. Hydrogen. Hydrogen. Water, of course, is H2O. Hydrogen dioxide. Water. H2O. The next one. Это ценное понимание. I think you have this word in Russian as well. This is a valuable insight. An insight. I think if we compare the way that Russian people say insight and the way we say insight, firstly, it's an insight. The stress is on the first syllable. In. So you need to hold an insight. Insight. Lots of nut. The nut should be longer than the second syllable. Insight. Insight. Especially because in sight, the I is clipped before the t at the end. Insight. Insight. The next one. Стрекозы. I know it's стрекоза. Is it стрекозы or стрекозы? Don't know. Стрекозы. Коза. Козы. Стрекоза. Стрекозы. Воспринимает изменения гораздо быстрее, чем мы. Dragonflies perceive changes much faster than we do. I know that's why, for example, you can never catch a fly. It always flies away faster because it perceives changes faster. It looks to the fly like we're moving really slowly towards it. Anyway, so it's all about perception. Восприятие. Perception. How do you perceive change? How do you perceive the world? And there's a nice adjective that comes from the word to perceive. Изменения были едва заметны. The changes were barely perceptible. Perceptible. Едва заметны. I could hardly perceive them. What other nouns come after perceptible, I wonder, apart from changes? Let's have a look. Probably difference will be there. A perceptible change, a perceptible shift, because a shift is also a movement, a slight movement is a shift. So a perceptible shift, a perceptible change, a perceptible impact, влияние, a perceptible movement like shift, perceptible, a barely perceptible smile, just like a little bit of a smile, or a little bit of a nod, a barely perceptible nod, perceptible progress, etc. So perceptible, заметно, like you could only just perceive it. The next one, опустите монету в отверстие. You know, like in a vending machine, there's a little place for the coins. That little thing is called a slot. Put a coin into the slot. Nice short slot. In fact, these machines, vending machines, or also gambling machines in like little casinos, they're often called slot machines because you put money in the slot machines. We also use this word slot when we talk about our day. If we have a little gap in our schedule, then we call it a slot. Завтра у меня в 11 есть свободное время, то есть окно. I've got a slot at 11 tomorrow. I've got a slot. Okay, the next one, the last one in the first part of the lesson. Он сдал экзамен и таким образом избежал повторения учебного года. Таким образом. There's a nice English word if you want to sound very sophisticated. Thus. Таким образом. Thus. He passed the exam and thus avoided repeating the year. No, not the... Yeah, thus. Good. Good. Voice typing got there in the end. Thus. He avoided repeating the year. Thus. Таким образом. In this way equals thus. It's like thus is a short way to say in this way. Thus. Thus. I like the word. It's clipped thus. Thus. All right. I recommend that if you're trying hard to learn all the words, you do the lesson in sections, perhaps 10 words per day, or at least that you take a short break between the sections. And now is the time for one of those breaks. So if you need a break, press pause and then come back and we'll look at another 10 words together. Let's move on. У нее обостренное чувство справедливости. She has an acute sense of justice. Acute. Here the oo is clipped before the t, so it comes out like oo, cute. Also because it comes between k and t, two aspirated unvoiced consonants, we almost aspirate the u, and pronounce it with some extra air. Cute. Can you hear it? Cute. A cute sense of justice. Try to make it breathy. An acute sense of justice. What else can be acute? Acute. We talk about acute stress. It's like it's sharp. It's like acute. Acute pain. It's the same idea. I'll see if it's the same translation in Russian, actually. I said I didn't know all the words. Острая боль. Yeah. Can you have острый стресс? Острый стресс. Yeah. Acute stress. Acute pain. An acute infection. But also an acute awareness. That means прямо я хорошо знаю. Я это чувствую, что есть такая проблема. I have an acute awareness of the problem. Острая. The next one. Пришло время противостоять врагу. The time has come to confront the enemy. This is a chance for me to talk about the word front, where you need to have a long a long foot and a long r, and then you need to say almost without a verb. People say front or front. No, front, front, front. There's not a lot of in this word. Front, front. Little pause and then say the term. Confront, confront, confront. We need to confront the enemy. You need to confront your fears. We'll do collocates. Confront. You need to confront reality. Stop ignoring it. Stop running away from it. You need to confront it. We need to confront this question. We need to confront this challenge. Confront the enemy. Confront. The next one. There's also a noun. Confrontation. He's very confrontational. Like, he always tries to confront people. He's confrontational. He likes confrontations. The next one. Предложение было отклонено после того, как чиновники сочли его слишком дорогим. Сочли is the word we want to translate here. The proposal was rejected after officials deemed it too expensive. So, to deem is like to make a judgment about something. So, they deemed it too expensive. I wonder if we can get something like this. Deemed. Let's have deem like that. With nouns. No, we'll have adjectives up to 6 words later. And see what we get. It's trying. Come on, corpus. There we go. Yes. They deemed it necessary. They decided that it was necessary. They deemed it appropriate. They decided that it was appropriate. It was deemed... Let's not do it. Let's do he was deemed. He was deemed worthy of a promotion. So some people decided that he was worthy of a promotion. The building was deemed safe. So there's always a judgment involved when we deem something plus adjective. Deem something adjective. Okay. 564. В те дни это было опасное путешествие. Of course, we could say dangerous, but let's use a more advanced word. In those days, it was a hazardous journey. Hazardous. There were many hazards along the way. Hazards, dangers, it was hazardous. There is a Russian word azart, but I don't think it's the same as hazard. It's a bit different. And remember, with hazard, stress on the hazard, hazardous, you must open your mouth to get a good ha at the beginning. Hazard. The next one. Они сравняли старый дом с землей. They leveled the old house. So, I'm sure you know about levels, уровне, but also сравнять с землей, to level something. You can level the old house. We also often use this phrase. We want to level the playing field. If the playing field is not level, then one side has an advantage. If we're playing football and I'm playing down the hill, I have an advantage. That's not fair. We want to level the playing field to make everything fair. And we often talk about that like the job market. We want to level the playing field so it's fair for everybody. So no one has an unfair advantage over anybody else because of their class or their education or their race or their gender. We want equality. We want to level the playing field. Next, каковы шансы на успех? What are the odds of success? So if you go to a bookmaker, that's where they do stavki. A bookmaker can give you the odds of victory, defeat, and almost anything else. You can go and get the odds, and then you can place a bet. But we don't only use this word when we talk about stavki, we use it in general when we talk about шансы. Удивительно, what are the odds? Surprising. And the next one. Ваши выводы основаны на ложных предпосылках. Your conclusions are based on false premises. It's an interesting word, premises, because it can also mean like property. You need to leave the premises immediately. That means покидать территорию, leave the premises. Alcohol may be consumed on the premises. В этом учреждении, on the premises. But premise has another meaning here, like предпосылки. You can have false premises. Let's have a look what other premises you can have. So we'll do adjectives with premises. You can talk about a basic premise, a theoretical premise, an underlying premise, factual premise, or premises. The next one. Он поразительно похож на своего дядю. He bears a striking resemblance to his uncle. Resemblance. Resemblance, когда похож. He resembles his uncle. Он похож на. So resemble, to resemble is to look like. He looks like his uncle. He resembles his uncle. There's a striking resemblance. Resemblance. Remember, it's a z. Resemblance. Resemblance. The next one. Наши выводы были подтверждены последующими исследованиями. Our findings were confirmed by subsequent studies. So, последующие, subsequent. And sometimes последовательно, we also say subsequently. I subsequently found out that he had been lying. Я потом, позже узнал. I subsequently found out. I subsequently discovered. Subsequently, let's have a look at this. Subsequently, let's see what we get. He subsequently became mayor of the town, for example. Or the book was subsequently published by another publisher. The site was subsequently developed and turned into a shopping centre. I don't know, subsequently, later. And this is the last one in this part of the lesson. Мы хотим улучшить нашу систему видеонаблюдения. We want to improve our surveillance system. This is one of those words where it's nice to have voice typing because you don't need to remember the spelling. Surveillance, our surveillance system. And so that is another set of 10. Feel free to press pause, to take a break, to have a drink, or to continue watching and pick up some new vocabulary, hopefully. Number 571. Процесс отбора был произвольным. This is one of those Russian words that I don't know. The selection process was arbitrary. So, it was an arbitrary process. There were no clear guidelines or no clear pattern. It was just arbitrary. Okay, you, and you. And if we put in the nouns that are commonly found around this word, we'll do two before and two after and see what we get. We can talk about arbitrary rules or arbitrary arrests. You know, if they just arrest random people with no pattern or unrelated to whether they have actually committed a crime. Arbitrary detention, when they decided to detain people, whether they had done anything or not, and for an arbitrary length of time. Arbitrary. Произвольный, maybe not only произвольный, but I hope that those examples give you a bit of an idea how the word is used. Arbitrary. Practice saying ruri at the end. You need to put your lips forward to get a good ruri. Arbitrary. The next one. Мухи столпились вокруг источника света. Flies clustered around the light. So there's this word, a cluster, when you have a gathering of things all together. What else can you have a cluster of? Cluster of collocates will have up to 3 nouns after. A cluster of... You can have a cluster of buildings close together. A cluster of stars. A cluster of galaxies. A cluster of cells. Cells, that's клетки in your body. A cluster of trees. So, a little gathering, a cluster. And it's also a verb to cluster. The next one, 573. Она скрывала свою беременность в течение нескольких месяцев. Скрывала. She concealed her pregnancy for months. So, to conceal something is to hide something. And if we put in the verb conceal and we go, 3 before, 3 after, then you can see the most common phrases. He concealed his identity. Свою личность скрывал. They concealed the facts. They concealed the truth. He concealed his face. So to conceal is a sophisticated way to say to hide. The next one. Вильгельм Нормандский завоевал Англию в 1066 году. William of Normandy conquered England in 1066. No, not concord. Let's try again. William of Normandy conquered England in 1066. Got it. Or it's William the Conqueror. We often call him. William the Conqueror conquered England. Завоевал. If you conquer, then you take the whole territory. To conquer. There's also a famous saying. He came, he saw, he conquered. I think that's about Alexander the Great. Although, perhaps I should check that. He came, he saw, he conquered. Let's have a look. Julius Caesar. There you go. Not Alexander the Great. Julius Caesar came, saw, and conquered. The next one. Город был безлюден. the town was deserted. This is quite confusing because pustynia is the desert. So, people deserted the desert. You could use that phrase if everybody left the desert behind. Maybe it makes more sense to say the desert town. The desert town was deserted. It was a deserted desert town. There we go. A deserted desert town. Безлюдный город в пустыне. So desert, пустыня, but desert is a verb to бросить, when everybody leaves. Here we've got заброшенная деревня, a deserted village. We found a deserted village. You might know this word from the military as well. He deserted his unit. Deserters will be severely punished. I think that's дезертировать in Russian, if you abandon your unit, if you abandon your fellow soldiers, to desert. So, desert, interesting word. There's also the phrase, he got what he deserved. He got his just desserts. And it's spelt like that. What he deserved, he got his desserts. Which is yet another meaning of this interesting word. And of course, there's also dessert, dessert. I had chocolate cake for dessert. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky word. Right, the next one. Они соорудили временный мост через реку. They erected a temporary bridge over the river. So you can erect a bridge. I'm curious to know what other things can be erected. Let's have a look. Barriers. They erected barriers to stop the invading army. They erected a statue of Lenin. Lenin. I didn't say Lenin, I said Lenin. But it could be John Lennon as well. Could be. Couldn't it? What else? A monument was erected in the square. So when you erect something, you put it up. There you go. Let's look at the next one. Позвольте мне рассказать историю, чтобы наглядно показать, что я имею в виду. Я хочу наглядно показать. Let me tell a story to illustrate what I mean. So, illustrate a story. For example, in a book, we call the pictures that go with the story illustrations. And a professional illustrator draws pictures to accompany stories. So in children's books, it's particularly important to have a good illustrator. In fact, often I think the illustrator is maybe more important than the author because, you know, children's books need great pictures, great illustrations. And so you can also illustrate with words if you paint a picture with your words. So that's what's going on here. I want to illustrate what I mean with a story. And here we've got illustracji. Oh, there's a Russian word. This book has beautiful illustrations. So there's a Russian word, so it should all be clear. Lustri. That's interesting. Lust. Interesting connection there. Okay, the next one. Известного актера обвинили в изнасиловании. A famous actor was accused of rape. They accused him of being a rapist. I won't talk for long about those words. The next one. Он провел 3 недели в самом дорогом люкс-номере отеля. So, люкс-номер is a suite. He spent 3 weeks in the hotel's most expensive suite. Hotels with an apostrophe, the most expensive suite. And if I put here in suite of, and then we go 3 words after, what do we get? A suite of rooms. That's kind of clear. That could be in a hotel. A suite of offices. Several offices that you can rent as a whole, as a suite. But you can also we offer a suite of services. It makes it sound premium. If you say we offer a range of services, that sounds fine, but a suite of services sounds quite premium. Our clients can access a suite of benefits. Again, it's like a range, but more prestigious. A suite. All right, the next word. I like this word. Она была совершенно одинока. She was utterly alone. Utterly. It's a good way to say completely. I mean, it's a synonym. Look at this. Utterly, followed by adjectives. What are the most common? That's an utterly ridiculous idea. Not actually, not Natalie. Try again. That is an utterly ridiculous idea. Абсолютно, совершенно, полное, utterly. He is utterly useless. Абсолютно бесполезный. I'm afraid it's utterly impossible. Completely impossible. Utterly impossible. No, you are utterly wrong. Utterly. So try to add this one to your speech and you'll sound much more sophisticated in English. Right, that's another set of 10. So if you need a break, now's the time to press pause, review the words, and then watch the next part of the lesson. The fourth part of the lesson. Я стараюсь не общаться с такими людьми, как она. I try not to associate with people like her. I think Russian has a word, ассоциировать. Well, I try not to associate with these kinds of people. There's also the noun association, ассоциация. What happens in an association? People associate with each other in associations. So this isn't too difficult for you. The next one. Прорвало трубу и дорогу затопило. Прорвало. A pipe burst and flooded the road. It burst. What other things burst? Something burst, or they burst the something. Let's see what nouns we get with the word burst. Tears. This is the phrase. She burst into tears. When она заплакала сильно. She burst into tears. But also with laughing. They burst out laughing. Another useful phrase. It burst into flames. Сильно сгорело. Загорело, скорее, да? It burst into flames. They burst my bubble. Лопнули мой пузырь. Burst. They burst through the door. So that's about movement. You can imagine it, can't you? If they exploded into the room, they burst through the door. Burst. The audience burst into spontaneous applause. When something happened suddenly. Burst. I hope that helps. The next one. Мой противник не желал признавать поражение. My opponent was unwilling to concede defeat. Признавать, to concede in this context. And let's look at some other things that get conceded. Okay, I concede your point. I can see your point. Could be that. I concede the point is another way to say, okay, you're right. It's like we're having a discussion. You make your point. I make my point to disagree. You make your point. I say, okay, actually, I concede the point. Yes, you're right. I concede. You can also concede the election. Trump did not want to concede the 2020 election. So he lost the election, but afterwards he didn't want to concede, to recognize his defeat. So that's concede. In football, you can concede a goal. They conceded a goal in the last minute of the match. Пропустили гол на последней минуте матча. And there's also a word concessions, so they are the things that you concede. После трудных переговоров бастующие пошли на некоторые уступки. After tough negotiations, the strikers made a few concessions. So if you make concessions, you want this, but you say, okay, you can have this. Okay, you can have this. That's a concession. The next one. Я сидел на берегу озера и размышлял о своей жизни. Размышлял. I sat by the lake and contemplated my life. I contemplated. I spent a few hours in contemplation. В размышление, contemplation, contemplating. This is contemplative music. Contemplative. It helps me to contemplate things. Contemplative. The next word, 585. Министр иностранных дел поговорила со своим бразильским коллегой. It's not colleague, because they don't work for the same ministry. So you can't use colleague in this context. Although non-native speakers often do. The foreign minister spoke to her Brazilian counterpart. So a counterpart is somebody on the same level, but from another organization or from another country. So counterpart is the correct word to use here. The next one. Он вступил в банду, когда ему было 13. Banda. He joined a gang when he was 13. He joined the gang. Gang. The most important thing when you pronounce this word, open your mouth. Gang. 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 It's on your gang. 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 He joined the gang when he was 13. They ganged up on me. If like people gang up on you, it's like they form a group and then they put pressure on you to try to make you do something. I don't know. My colleagues ganged up on me and put pressure on me to do something. Okay, the next one. У нас в саду есть теплица. I know this Russian word. We have a greenhouse in our garden. Greenhouse. Just remember, it's greenhouse. The stress is on the first word. Greenhouse. Greenhouse. So when you say house, can you hear? I don't use my full voice. House. You can use breath. House. Or you can croak. House. But you mustn't use your full voice. Greenhouse. Greenhouse. Not greenhouse. Greenhouse. So the first syllable's not too strong, and the second syllable's really soft. Greenhouse. Greenhouse. The next one. У него был незаконнорожденный сын. I didn't know this Russian word either. He had an illegitimate son. illegitimate. So if something is legitimate, let's see what can be legitimate actually. Legitimate. Let's have a look. What can be legitimate? A legitimate concern. A legitimate reason. A legitimate question. A legitimate interest. So usually when we use these words, if it's a legitimate interest, then the interest can be justified. If it's a legitimate question, then you can justify it. I wonder what... It's not законный, you see. It's not законный вопрос. A legitimate... That's what Yandex says, but законный... No, it's not. That's a legitimate question. Обоснованный. Есть основание, чтобы вот задавать такой вопрос. У него есть основание, чтобы иметь вот такой интерес. У него вот его причина обоснованная. Есть основание, короче. If it's legitimate, есть вот настоящее основание. Задавать такой вопрос. Причина, беспокойство, вот. It's legitimate. But also legitimate can be to do with, so, a legitimate son, that really is about the law. Legitimate. Or he has a legitimate claim to compensation. Like genuine. I suppose in all these contexts, genuine concern, искренне, would be a synonym. Genuine, it's a genuine reason, a legitimate reason, a real reason. So there's some useful phrases with legitimate or illegitimate. The next one. Судья не проявил милосердия. The judge showed no mercy. So милосердие is mercy. The adjective is he made a merciful decision. Merciful. Yeah, merciful. The next one. Oops. Have I missed one? No. 590. Карнавал проходит ярко и шумно. The carnival is vibrant and loud. It's vibrant. Ярко. Полен жизни. Vibrant and loud. When you say it, vibrant, try to get a lot of Y in your vi, because it comes before this voiced zvonky b. Vibrant, vibrant, and then the brunt is clipped at the end. Vibrant and loud. What else can be vibrant? I'm guessing we'll get some costumes, vibrant colours. It's a vibrant community. It has a vibrant local economy. It has a vibrant cultural scene. Vibrant. That's another set of 10. So if you like, press pause, take a break, review the words, write your own practice sentences. That's always useful. And then watch the last part of the lesson. So 591, part 5 in this lesson. Губки впитывают воду. Впитывать. Sponges absorb water. I don't know why when I do voice typing it adds these random commas. It's quite annoying. Anyway, sponges absorb water. Remember it's a z. Absorb, or something like that. Absorb water. Absorb. Let's see what other words are often used around the word absorb. So you can absorb water. Plants absorb energy from the sun. or the body absorbs energy from food, or absorbs it into the bloodstream. Absorb. He can absorb a lot of information quickly. Information into your mind. Absorb. You can also say he is absorbed in his work. Jest on pogrużon w swoją robotę. Absorbed. Okay, the next one, also beginning with a. Если я отрегулирую талию, брюки будут сидеть лучше. If I adjust the waist, the trousers will sit better. If I adjust. So to adjust is to make little changes. To adjust. And there's a noun, adjustments. Мы внесли несколько незначительных изменений в настройки. We made a few minor adjustments to the settings. So an adjustment is always a little change. To adjust, just move it a little bit. Adjust. The next one. Я хотел бы пояснить, как это работает. Пояснить. I'd like to clarify how it works. You might say, thank you for clarifying. За пояснение, or thank you for the clarifications. За пояснение. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you for the clarifications. There's also the noun clarity. Я восхищаюсь вашей ясностью мышления. I admire your clarity of thought. So we get all these words from the word clear. So clear, you get clarify, clarification, and clarity. Clarity. The next one, 594. Мы живем в эпоху антропоцена. We live in the Anthropocene era. I don't know why I said Anthropocene. I wanted to add a r. Anthropocene. Anthropocene era. Era. Remember, at the beginning of this, we have the ear sound. But because we have another syllable, it becomes more like e plus ra. Ra. Era. Era. Ra. Era. Era. The Anthropocene era. The next one. Стоимость проезда в автобусе снова выросла. The bus fare has gone up again. The bus fare. So that's what you pay for transport. Airfares. Train fares. Obviously, bus fares. So it's we use this particular phrase when we talk about transport, but not in other contexts, just transport. Fare, F-A-R-E, is also a verb. Он хорошо справляется со своей новой работой. You can say, he's faring well in his new job. How's he doing? He's faring well. I think he'll fare well. Basically, this fare well is a fixed expression, and we rarely use this verb with any other words. If I put in here, fare dot v, and then stars, I think you'll see, oops, let's try that again. The top hits are to fare better, to fare well, basically. You can also fare poorly. He fared poorly in the exam. Not fed, fared. He fared poorly. So basically, you can fare well and you can fare poorly. The next one. Спасибо вам за ваш вклад в проект. Или в разговор. Doesn't really matter. Thank you for your input. So, what you put in, it's your input. Thanks for your input. The next one. Сотни лет назад моряки ориентировались по звездам. Hundreds of years ago, sailors navigated by the stars. I think navigacja is a Russian word, so you should be familiar with navigate and navigation. We often, when we talk about our car system for directions, we often call it a sat nav. Switch on the sat nav. The sat nav, satellite navigation, and it will tell you where to go. Sat nav will tell you where to go. Navigation. The next one. Это оптическая иллюзия. It's an optical illusion. This is one of those words that's not supposed to be here because I removed all the words that are the same in English and Russian, but obviously I missed one. Oops. Actually, those words which are the same in English and Russian are included, but they're all at the end of the course. So the last couple of lessons are just words which are nearly the same. The idea was in the first, 15 lessons, there wouldn't be words like that, but I missed one. Optical, оптическая. The next one. Мой друг ввязался в спор, и его пришлось сдерживать. My friend got into an argument and had to be restrained. So, сдержать кого-то is to restrain somebody. He had to be held back. Obviously, сдержанные люди. British people tend to be reserved. Сдержанные. Not tend to be restrained. Although they tend to be restrained, you can say that. But restrain is more about someone that's out of control. Whereas reserved is somebody who's completely in control and just chooses not to give information, for example. But if you need to restrain somebody, it's got this word strain in it, and strain implies напряжение. There's strain. So if you restrain somebody, it requires some force and some difficulty. So сдерживать сильно, restrain. There's the noun as well. You need to exercise restraint. You need to hold yourself back. Don't drink alcohol. Exercise restraint. And the last one in this lesson. Кандидаты наук должны написать диссертацию. Maybe you want to say dissertation, but it's not a dissertation. Because in the UK, and I think it's the same in America, a dissertation is what master's students write. Master's students write a dissertation, whereas PhD candidates write a thesis. And undergraduate students do coursework. Like курсовая работа. So coursework is the lowest level, then a dissertation is a bit more serious, but the most serious for the PhD candidates is a thesis. Thesis. Here, because we have the I between th and s, two unvoiced consonants, it kind of becomes thesis. Thesis, without using our full voice. Thesis. That's 600 words. Well done. I hope there was something new for you and it was interesting to watch the lesson. If you liked it, remember to click like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. It helps. And also, feel free to leave a comment. That's always good. But the most important thing is make sure that you watch the next lesson. Don't give up. We're getting near the end now. So keep going. All right. Bye then. Bye.